5 days in with the Google Nexus 5, and today we're talking about KitKat, Android 4.4, both on the Nexus 5 and how it differs from other devices that have received it, such as the Moto X. I'm Aaron Baker from PhoneDog.com. Join me, it's day 5 of my 30-day challenge with the Nexus 5. Day 5 with the LG Nexus 5 or Google Nexus 5, and I've talked about the build quality. What I want to talk about today is KitKat Android 4.4 and how it differs from a Nexus device, the Nexus 5 for example, which came with it out of the box, versus the Moto X, which was upgraded to Android 4.4. I've had a lot of you ask me on Twitter and on Facebook, what's the difference like? What's the experience like on the Nexus 5, which obviously had it out of the box, versus the Moto X, which got it via a software update, and they do look different. I mean, these are both running Android 4.4, as I can show you by going to settings, for example, and you can see the overall settings icon exactly the same. You can see they're both running Android 4.4 by the little wrench right there, by the little bolt, if you will, at the top. And you can see, for example, here, Android 4.4, Android 4.4 on both of these devices. So they're both running KitKat, but they look different out of the gate. You can see the app drawer area, the app area here, and the actual app drawer buttons look different as well. And you'll immediately notice that Hangouts by default on the Nexus 5 is the SMS application, whereas over here you still have your original, and pardon me while I pull it away to make sure there are no messages there. You still have your original messaging application. Now that's not to say you can't go and install Hangouts as your default SMS application. You can, and it always prompts that. Of course, the latest version prompts that on all Android devices. But you see here, looks different right there. And also when you go into the app drawer, you see these big, beautiful apps on the Nexus 5, for example, and it's kind of a cleaner experience overall, in my opinion. You can see the apps are bigger, the icons are bigger, a little bit easier to read, whereas over here you've still got the apps and widgets set up, very reminiscent of older versions of Android. So still kind of something from the Jelly Bean days, if you will, with apps and widgets up here. And you can see, of course, again, KitKat here with the settings button. You can see it in a couple of the different icons, and you can see it up top here as well, and it's kind of hard to see on the camera, so forgive me, but for example, where it says AT&T 4G LTE, the battery indicator, all that is white text now to go along with the white text that comes on Android 4.4. So you're going to see differences like that all throughout. For example, when I press and hold to add either home screens or add wallpapers, you can see the interface differences here. This is KitKat out of the box in the Nexus 5, where you have wallpapers, widgets, and settings right here, and of course you can scroll through your various home screens, whereas over here, again, a little bit more of a traditional Android interface approach with gallery, live wallpapers, photos, and wallpapers lined up and ready to rock and roll. So I can go into gallery, for example, click on camera, or I can go down here to photos, wallpapers, and click on some of my existing wallpapers that came with the Moto X. So they're both good experiences. Definitely see some improvements overall. The speed feels a little bit faster on the Moto X, but that said, the interface, the experience you get on the Nexus 5 is different from the experience you get on the Moto X. Not sure why they opted to go that route, but you can see here again just little things like Aaron Baker, for example, under my pictures at the very bottom on this version of Android 4.4, whereas over here there is slightly raised where you can see, for example, my suit jacket below the picture there. So a little bit of a difference there. Of course, all your little indicators and shortcuts still here on both devices, and overall settings grouped out by wireless and networks, device, personal, and then down here accounts and systems. So very similar all around in terms of that functionality, and both have on-screen buttons, but still you see a couple of differences right there. And you see the Moto X, for example, that has updated to the latest version of the camera application, or latest version of the camera icon. They look exactly the same. Interface is just slightly different here. Again, this is a vanilla version. This version is slightly customized by Motorola and a little bit different overall. And then, of course, your lock screens, just to show you those differences, very similar on the lock screens front. Keep it locked on PhoneDog.com for the Nexus 5 30-day challenge. Let me know what you want to see on Twitter at PhoneDog_Aaron. I'm on Facebook as well, Facebook.com/HiAaronBaker. We've talked a little bit about KitKat. Stay tuned because I'm expecting the Android 4.4.2 update. It's actually queued, but I tried downloading it via Wi-Fi earlier, and I think it's kind of stuck in the configuration pattern here. See system updates. It's saying waiting to download. Even when I'm connected via Wi-Fi, it still says waiting to download. So not sure if I'm in a queue or I just froze it up. I've tried restarting it, so we'll see what happens there. But stay tuned for that. We'll talk about Android 4.4.2, more about the software, more about the build quality, all the good stuff you want to see in the 30-day challenge with Google's flagship Nexus device, the Nexus 5. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.